Every confirmed irregular in Tower of God. Ranked by strength, although a lot of this is going to be my opinion because we don't know all of the rankings. Number 18 is Rachel the Irregular, who's really only good at certain lighthouse techniques. She basically entered the tower by cheating, entering through Bomb's irregular portal. She really doesn't deserve to even be called an irregular. Number 17 is Bomb. Bomb is someone who is extremely powerful. He's already surpassed the power level of many rankers in the current story, but he still has a long way to go to match his fellow irregulars. He's learning various techniques, and of course Bomb's staple is when he gets hit with something he can copy it, so of course he's going to continue to advance, but he's just not quite there yet. Number 16 is ARLENE Grace. ARLENE is a character that we don't know truly how powerful she was, but we do know that she was unique among the original 13 warriors in that she could cast spells, and she used that to help her team climb the tower. I'm putting her at the lowest of the 13 warriors because we don't know how powerful she was. Spells could range from extremely powerful to support-based, and we do know that the other 13 or the other 12 aside from her were incredibly powerful, especially since most of them are still alive and they've grown a ton in the 20,000 years they've been alive. At number 15, we have Ari Han. We know Ari Han could be the lowest ranking because we don't know his ranking, but I'm putting him at the lowest below a certain other someone because he's known for being a pacifist, and this lets me believe he's probably, despite being super strong, not exactly the one who's always training, the one who's always going to show off his fighting capabilities. He's known, and him and his family are known for their needlework and their guardian swords, so yes, they're extremely powerful, but I don't see Ari Han being someone who stands out. At number 14, we have Lopobia Traumarai. Traumarai and Ari Han are the only 10 family heads that we don't know the rankings of, but if I had to guess, I would say Traumarai is stronger. The reason is he is an anima, the strongest and most powerful and most mastered anima in the entire tower. He can control Shinwei, and he can even control people. He can mind control whoever he wants. We just met Traumarai in the recent arc of The Nest, and I cannot wait to see what he's capable of. Now with the rest of these, keep in mind that their rankings are based upon the rankings that we know based on their number in the official list of rankings that we know. However, those rankings are not entirely based on power. That said, power does play a very large role aside from just politics, so I'm using that as a basis, and if you disagree with me, I'd like to hear it in the comments. At number 13, we have Jan Hana, one of the most fearsome warriors of the 13. According to SIU, Jan Hana was known to be the scariest of the 13 warriors when angry. She was also the most beautiful, and she's a master of flame, of course being the matriarch of the Jan family, but what's also interesting about Jan Hana is she is not actually the ancestor, the true ancestor of the people in the Jan family. That instead is her relative Jan Alarde. Alarde is instead the one that has all of the children, despite the fact that Jan Hana is the matriarch. At number 12, we have Hendo Lok Bloodmatter, who is a defender. The defender position is very rare. It's not like the other positions. It's entirely based around protecting the team, especially the Spearbearer. Because of this, Hendo Lok Bloodmatter and Edwan were an unstoppable duo. They were really close, and they both worked really well with one another. And they both also have a lot of kids. Even though Edwan has the most wives out of the 13 warriors, Hendo Lok Bloodmatter has the most children, and this is because he's the only one of the 10 family heads that did not make the contract for immortality. We don't know why he couldn't, but somehow he was cursed, and because of it, he can only stay immortal if he shortens his own children's lifespan, and he has to keep having kids. I don't know, Bloodmatter's whole mystery is a big mystery that I hope gets expanded upon more. At number 11, we have Po Badao Gustang. Gustang is a scientist. He knows so much about medicine and experiments and basically everything you need to know about Shinsu in the tower. Gustang's got your back. He's a wave controller who we know he's got to be extremely powerful, even if fighting isn't his forte. I mean, he's the only one of the family heads, aside now from Traumarai, who has appeared consistently in the story, and we saw a little snippet of what he can do. He was able to wipe the memories of the entirety of the Floor of Death, which alone is insane. He stared Rachel, just looked at her, and she was cured. I mean, he didn't even have to do anything. He just looked at her and she was cured. So that just shows you how much of a god not only Gustang is, but also the rest of the family heads. At number 10, we have Eurasia Blossom. Eurasia Blossom is the wave controller of the tower. She was actually married / partnered with Gustang in the past, and they are the parents of Eurasia and Jihad, who was the most powerful princess of Jihad before she was sealed. Eurasia Blossom, her entire family is known for like two things: wave controller, and being really sleepy, which is why Laro and Eaterday and all these other Ponsacals and Eurasias that we see, they have that tendency to just want to sleep all day. One way or another though, Eurasia Blossom is definitely the strongest, or considered to be most likely the strongest wave controller of all the Irregulars, or at least the family heads. Number 9, we have Tuperi, who has the double name thing going on. He is the ultimate light bearer of the tower, and the only light bearer of all the Irregulars aside from Rachel. Now, what's weird about Tuperi is you don't think of the light bearer as being like very combat oriented, but we do know Tuperi created the operas, and he is very gifted at creating lighthouse techniques and skills, so I could see Tuperi being an extreme threat despite the fact that he is a light bearer. That said, this is also a position where I feel like is his high ranking due to the fact that he's really powerful, or does it mostly have to do with his political power? I'm not really sure. At number 8, this is the first time aside from ARLENE that I'm taking a liberty, because at number 8, I'm saying V. V is the father of Bomb, and the only real things we know about him is that he used a sword, because we can see that in the flashbacks, and his Shinsu had the highest tension of all the 13 warriors, which tells me that he must have been some kind of Shinsu-wielding wave controller fisherman hybrid, or something like that, right? Maybe a fisherman who used Shinsu, or vice versa, a wave controller that used swords, I'm not really sure, but either way, we know V was an extreme threat. He wasn't as powerful as Jahad by any means, but we do know that many of the other family heads respected him, despite the fact that others really hated him. We know he was a beast. We know V, just having the highest tension out of all the family heads alone is insane. At number 7, we have Ha-Yuren. I'm putting Ha-Yuren above V because I consider these next 3 to be the most powerful warriors of all 13, aside from Jahad himself. Ha-Yuren, when it came to physical combat, was basically unmatched. She was an absolute monster on the battlefield. Her physical prowess and her sturdiness and toughness and the way she was able to use physical techniques was practically unmatched, which is why we see many members of the Ha family exhibit these same traits. Jinsung and Yuri and all these other Ha's are able to use techniques that basically really go well with the fact that they have a very strong resistance to Shinsu, they have a sturdy body, and they pack a huge punch. I said Yanhana was considered to be like the scariest when angered, but I feel like Ha-Yuren has gotta be up there too. At number 6, we have Kun Edwan, who is the master spear bearer of the entire group. We all know the stories about Edwan, the master spear bearer, master of lightning Shinsu, although also some ice affinity as well, but mostly lightning, right? He had a spear that apparently his lightning spear was the size of a mountain, according to legend, There's all kinds of legends about Kun Edwan. I already talked about the fact that he worked well with Hendolok blood matter. Overall, Kun Edwan is considered to be one of the strongest, actually the second strongest of the 10 family heads. At number 5, we have the strongest family head, and that's Arie Han, or Hon, who is a relative of Ari Han, but not to be confused with him. Arie Han is someone who is a master swordsman. We know V used swords, and we know other people use swords, but Arie Han is the only one who can actually use swords in his family to their full potential. He used swords so well, like the rest of his family, but especially him, that you couldn't even see it coming. It's like its own entity. Combining with the fact that I'm sure he was gifted with Shinsu, he could use that with his sword skills, Arie Han, a terrifying monster of the tower. But that being said, he still was no match for Jahad. In fact, they had 10 matches, and Arie Han couldn't beat Jahad once. At number 4, we have Yurik Mazino, who is the first person here that's an irregular that is considered to be stronger than most of the 13 warriors. Obviously, there are others, but he's like the lowest ranking one. He's very new to the tower. He hasn't been here for like an extremely long time, but we do know he passed Arie Han's test on the 100th floor, which is something that only like one other individual had done. Yurik is an absolute freaking powerhouse of a monster. I feel like the gap between Arie Han and Yurik is actually quite large, and that's not to dismiss Arie Han, but Yurik himself is undeniably and indescribably powerful. With 1% of his power or even less, he could just flick his finger and wipe out most high rankers. Yurik is a beast. At number 3, we have the king of the tower himself, King Jahad, who is not the strongest. Jahad is not the strongest, but he is the strongest active Irregular and the strongest active ranker. The two that are stronger than him, we haven't seen them in a long time, they are inactive. Jahad has all kinds of tools at his disposal. We've seen Data Jahad use all kinds of cosmic abilities. He had a needle that had multiple forms, and we don't really know if like current Jahad has those abilities, but I imagine even if he doesn't, he probably just has similar things, but way stronger and way more versatile, because we know that even though Jahad was considered to be a fisherman, he could take on any position and master any of them. I don't have to talk about Jahad. We all know Jahad is strong and is considered to be the strongest of all the 13 warriors. At number 2, we have Enryu. Now, Enryu and Jahad haven't fought, but the fact that Enryu did something so powerful that warranted him a spot above Jahad speaks for itself. Enryu is the only character in the entire history of the tower who has ever killed an administrator. He killed the administrator of the 43rd floor, which is something that was unheard of. If the family heads and Jahad are considered gods, they're angels compared to the administrators, right? The administrators are the true gods. They were there long before Jahad ever entered, and they are basically the true rulers who have come to an agreement with Jahad and the warriors to take a step back and let them handle the testing. But it doesn't matter. Like, if you piss off an administrator, you're done. And of course, Jahad has never fought an administrator, but Enryu has killed one. Like, he killed one, which is something no one else has done, which is, of course, enough. That's enough. That's all we have to hear. But we do know he can control over 9,000 bangs, which is kind of a joke by SIU, but we have to assume it's also serious. And supposedly he can even create life. And number 1, the strongest Irregular in the entire history of Tower of God is Pentaminum. Pentaminum doesn't even count. He shouldn't even count because yes, he's an Irregular. Yes, he appeared in the tower in the past like 500 or so years and did a crazy thing, wiping out tons of people in Jahad's palace just like that. But he is an Axis. Axises are basically the true, like again, if the administrators are gods, they get reduced to ants compared to Axises, because Axises, or Axes, they command the universe. They're basically the storytellers of Tower of God in a way. We don't know much about them, but they are the mythological beings that basically are in command of the entire universe. So we don't know why Pentaminum did this, we don't know much about Pentaminum, but we do know no one else can even come close to comparing. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like and stay tuned for tomorrow's episode of Towers and Gods, where we continue to explore all the interesting things that are happening in the merchant city of Artlam. We hope to see you there. It's gonna be a blast. And with that being said, I will see you in my next Tower of God video. Take care.